everyone, it's Austin, and I'm joined today by Jason.
Hello.
And Alex.
Hello.
And a Kaylin.
What's up?
How are you guys doing today? We're Back to Basics, a Commander podcast, and we're just going to kick it off here with a new segment that we're going to start doing every week called The Best Cards You're Not Playing. And yes, we stole this from another podcast, but we don't really care. So, Alex, you have a card for us that is should be played more.
Yes.
What card?
So the card that I have for today is actually, I think it's a really good creature for control decks. It's God Eternal Kefnet.
Okay.
Which is 2 blue for a 4/5 with flying. When you may reveal the first card you draw on each of your turns as you draw it. Whenever you reveal an instant or sorcery, you can copy it and the spell and cast it, paying 2 less than its mana cost. And then when it dies, it does the God Eternal thing where it tucks itself.
Mm-hmm.
No, this card is really good just for control decks or decks that are just playing Sensei's Divining Top. It pairs really well with.
It's
just
an amazing card. Yeah.
Well, like you just float some random removal, and then when you need it, or a counter spell, and you draw it with top.
It's a really good commander if you want to play like a really hard control, like its win con's really easy.
Yeah.
You just get top out with a time spell, and like you just take infinite turns.
Yeah.
If you're not doing that, you can use
it's not with top, it's with Jade. With Jade's Divine Sculptor or Scroll Rack.
Or Scroll Rack, yeah. I was going to say,
Scroll Rack, yeah.
If you have a Scroll Rack, this, and an extra turn spell, you take infinite turns.
I'm surprised.
Or doubling up on like a Vraska's Contempt is really good, or Swords to Plowshares.
Something like that is really powerful. Yeah,
it is only in 2% of eligible decks on EDH Rec. I'm surprised it's not played more. This card is insane.
I am too. It's a really good card. It's both, like I said, as a commander, it's a really good choice, but like in particular, it's great. You keep getting it back after it dies. I mean, it goes from third from the top.
I think its main problem is it's from War of the Spark, and it's a control card from War of the Spark, and it's not Teferi.
Yeah, so it kind of got overshadowed a little bit. I mean, for all of you like budget players out there, I mean, you can buy a promo version of this for less than $10. Like the normal one's like $360. Like that's solid.
Cheap
really good for like a really powerful.
I mean, I hate this card on principle because I played with it or played against it during Standard a lot, and I just could not handle this card.
Also, I mean, like not even just to speak of. I mean, obviously it's a mythic, but like not even to speak about the fact that it's a God Eternal, so it does that thing where when it dies or is put into exile, you put it, third from the top in the library, so it like keeps coming back. But it's also a 4/5 flyer for 4 mana. Like that's nuts, right?
That's a good rate.
Like, and if you own a Jeweled Lotus, like I guess you can do this on turn 1 if it's your commander. So,
well, like it also fits with zombies. It's a zombie. So.
It can go in your Scarab God deck.
I
know a lot of people like those.
It was a zombie, just like randomly.
Yeah,
it's a really good card. I really like this choice. I'm also surprised, like you, Kaylin. I expected it in more decks than it.
Yeah, it's only in 4,851 decks on EDH Rec out of the 203,000 it could be in. So it's only in 2% of decks.
Yeah,
it doesn't go in every single blue deck. I think it only goes in like the hard
eligible.
Decks.
It only
it's good in
control decks. Yeah. Control and anything that's trying to take turns or draw a bunch of spells. It's
absolutely.
Great. Oh my god, and Nekuzar. This would be amazing for you Nekuzar players. Because you could copy those wheel effects and just hit them for 14.
It's only 10th in mono blue commanders. It's pretty, like, kind of in the middle of the pack. But yeah, it's definitely... I have never seen this on the commander table, so...
I don't think I've ever seen anyone.
I don't think I've ever seen a God Eternal Kefnet.
Yeah, no.
Honestly, the only God Eternal that I ever see is this Ronas when
Oketra.
Oh yeah.
No, I see Oketra.
I have never seen Oketra at a commander table, and I love that card.
Well, no, I played against an Oketra deck.
That'd be interesting.
Like it just like turboed on Oketra, then played 3 1-drops, and I was just like.
And then it's like, here's a bunch of 4/4s.
I played it in. I still play it in Historic on Arena, where you go turn 1 Dork into turn 2 Vivian into like turn 3 whatever, turn 4 Oketra, and then you're like. Okay, Llanowar Elves make a 4/4 at instant speed because I have a Vivian in play. Like, that's a lot of fun.
Or you just you play the Flash alluring white creature that enters battlefield and returns a creature to your hand. It's 1 and a white. It's a lion.
White Mane Lion. Yeah.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, White Mane Lion with this seems really solid actually. Especially if you have like an Oketra's Monument, make it 1 less.
Yeah,
Oh boy, I
that
am
sounds really good.
okay. We need to move on because I
That's
wanna build
we're
this
we're
and
just
I
gonna
need to
talk
stop.
about God Eternal.
We could just talk about this card the entire
Yeah.
time. Welcome to
Yeah.
the new version of the podcast where we
Oh,
talk
We
about.
just one
Oh,
card.
speaking of casting free spells and specifically casting things like Vraska's Contempt, we're going to sit here and talk about removal and why you should play a heck of a lot more of it. Because quite frankly, we kind of mentioned this last week too, but it is just so infuriating when I sit down at a commander table with 3 other players and someone's got a creature and the 2 other people at the table have 0 answers in their deck for it. Like,
yeah.
I've even like spent like because in Will and Rowan, I've spent a knowledge exploitation to grab a removal spell that I needed, and the person I targeted didn't have removal in their blue-black deck, and I was like, "What are you doing?
Should have targeted
What is
me.
this?"
I always have
Like,
removal.
ugh. Some people.
Yeah, I play
I-
too much removal.
I've come
I
across
think- I don't
either
think
no
there's-
removal or board white tribal, and there's definitely somewhere in between where you can.
Yeah, well, and there's
you
also
can
I mean,
definitely-
that's just a difference in removal as well, right? Like board wipes
Right.
are technically removal, and so is player removal. But
Yeah.
like that's just it. You still need to deal with the utility creatures early on, right?
Yeah.
Like Alex, you were talking about earlier. If you look at the list of CDH commanders, like the really popular ones for CDH, how many of them died a lightning bolt?
Almost all of them that aren't
Yeah.
a food chain commander.
Almost every single one that isn't a food chain commander. And like I understand that even commander has like all these big stupid creatures, right? And a lot of the time like everyone starts at 40 life, so like lightning bolt deals half the work when it goes to the dome. Like it also just happens to kill all these stupid creatures. And look at Commander Legends just came out, and we got
Right.
Opposition Agent and Hull Breacher, and they both died a lightning bolt.
Yep.
Along similar lines with lightning bolt, my favorite. I know you like lightning bolt a lot, and
I do.
I tend to go more with a braid in commander because it also hits artifacts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yes, it can't go face, and very occasionally the face really does matter. I'm never
Well,
going to deny
It
that.
also can't
Yeah.
go to the Planeswalkers. That's
Yeah.
another relevant piece.
I was about to say
So-
they can go to planeswalkers too, but I think between lightning bolt and a braid, you got a really good choice there. Like I even run pirate spellbomb in several of my decks, but of course I play a lot of KCI combos, and it's a good way to finish really easily. But it kills off a surprisingly amount of commanders that. Let's take out CDH for a second and just talk about more like I personally have never played against a Kalia deck that I've been scared of. That does not mean I haven't played against good Kalia decks. Just most of my decks have a lot of removal or faster.
Right.
I know at like a little bit more casual tables, Kalia can just pub stomp, and I've seen it happen. And that doesn't mean Kalia is a bad commander per se, but 2 toughness, right? Yeah, 2 toughness dies to so many
Shock.
things
Everything. Just
early
everything.
on.
Shock.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I said, Pirate Spellbomb is something. Of course, I run a Bolt and a Braid, or other things that I will run, and like that's just bare basics. I'm not talking about everything else that can kill it, like Walking Ballista on 2 or 3, just using that as an outlet.
She's 4 CMC, right? 1 in Mardu.
Yeah, one
yeah.
in Mardu. And
Yep.
She dies
she's
to a revolted fatal push. Play fatal push.
she's a 2/2. But yeah, it's just like I've seen that before, like where Kalia I consider it a little bit maybe more casual. I'm sure 1 or 2 of you might be thinking like, oh, I've got a really competitive one. I'm sure it can handle its own, but like it's not CDH for a reason. It's got a limit, and while I hate the entire argument of like just dies to removal, it dies to removal pretty easily and pretty well. And if you even have just a couple removal spells, you can handle a Kalia deck well. And that's just a prime example, right?
Mhm.
Of not CDH necessarily, but in a casual play group that I used to play with a lot back in my hometown, someone ran a Kalia and someone ran a Krinko deck, and it was just like they'd slaughter them, and I'd call them a little bit more kitchen table, less competitive, and I once brought just what I considered a mildly competitive deck that was full of removal, and it was just a slaughter. And it's because I killed their commander 4 times or 3 times or something like
Right.
that. And I was like, yeah, cool. That's how you handle that. Right?
And
I
it's
mean,
not even
this-
just like the
yeah.
burn-based removal either, right?
Right.
Like Caitlin,
No,
you
like-
mentioned like Fatal Push, and like I understand that a lot of commander players have budget restrictions when they build their commander decks, and that's 100% understandable. Like I've been there myself, and I still on occasion build budget decks. And if you look at like even Vince from Commander's Quarters, like all of his decks are budget, like all that stuff. Fatal Push, Path to Exile, and Swords to Plowshares are all less than $5.
Pretty cheap. Yeah.
They are
Well, like
so
Fatal Push
cheap.
now is like $1.
Yeah,
Abrupt Decay is like $5.
Yeah, Abrupt Decay is very cheap. Trophy is still up there a little bit.
Beast
but it's
Within is
also cheap,
under $2,
and so
A lot of-
is
there's-
Gift.
so is Generous Gift.
Generous Gift, yeah.
There's just a ton of different cheap removal. Lignify is not even $1, right?
Yeah,
And
Lignify is a really good one.
Lignify
is a
effects,
really good magic
right?
card.
For
Yes,
those of you
it
not
is.
familiar, it's 1 in a green, enchanted creature. Enchanted creature is an 0/4 tree folk with no abilities. You just plop that on someone's commander, and if they don't have a way to remove said enchantment, they don't have a commander until a board wipe happens. Like,
Yeah,
it's
how
just
much is
gone.
like Imprisoned in the Moon? Same
Imprisoned in the
kinda-
Moon is
Oh, Imprisoned in
the
also
Moon's very
really
good.
cheap.
Yeah.
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 Effects like that are really good. Like I think Darksteel Mutation's pretty cheap as well. I don't think that one's too
Yep, it was
expensive.
a mystery booster, so it's dirt cheap.
Imprisoned in the
Yep.
Moon's 261 right now on
Yeah,
TCG. as
these
of
are
time
really
of
good
recording.
cards
Like,
because if your opponent just cannot find a way to knock off the enchantment, they're just without a commander for the entire game.
Yeah, if
Casmina's
you,
Transmutation is 20 cents.
Yeah,
and
that
it turns it into
yeah.
a 1/1.
Yeah,
Right.
If
yeah.
you Darksteel Mutation your mono black opponent, they're likely not gonna stop it.
Yeah, but
they
feed
really
the
don't have anything
swarm.
they can do.
But feed the
They-
swarm.
I guess
they have
could-
like
yeah,
two
they have feed
ways
this
to
one
get rid
now,
of
and
it.
they could languish it. or,
They could
minus to
languish.
counter
They
it.
could-
Yeah,
yeah, they
or
could
also
they
they
could
can
sacrifice it.
Sacrifice
I mean,
it. Yeah, there's
ways
plenty
out of
ways
it,
to do it,
but it takes a lot of work to do that, and and slowing down your opponents or stopping them from whatever is really good. I love Imprisoned in the Moon. I play that quite often in one of my decks, and I piss off a lot of people with it because it's just like, oh, that's
Yeah,
really
that
annoying.
card is pretty good.
When
Or
you
even
play
just,
someone
like-
like that,
especially those removal types. So your Imprisoned in the Moon, your Journey to Nowheres, your Oblivion Rings, your
Vanishing Light.
Lignifies, all that stuff. Darksteel Mutation. Like you're dealing with a creature in play, and it's very likely that not a single other person at the table is going to deal with it except for the person who controls it. And that comes down to using up their removal to get rid of like those problematic enchantments, when then you can just play something like you can play
Yeah.
other problematic permanents, and then if they sit there without their creature, then you're hindering them. You're costing, or you're
Yep.
taking them and forcing them to spend removal on your permanent, and that's relevant, right? Like that's
Yeah.
a big deal. So,
and
or even,
depending
like,
on how you're planning on
Detention
winning, it's
Sphere,
very
Yeah,
Yep.
Detention Sphere is a
that
couple
should
bucks.
be played a lot more, especially with
It's
the number
really-
of tokens decks. It just
Yeah.
needs to.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even if you're like really going deep, you could play like Declaration in Stone, Maelstrom Pulse, like cards like that.
Well, yeah, they're
Winds
actually
of
really good.
Abandon?
Win-
if you have to worry about
Winds of
Ooh,
Abandon.
you guys want to talk about
Oh.
Winds of Abandon?
if you have, or like,
Ugh.
I know it's an example of a card that Austin has played a little bit in decks as like if you're playing as a bunch of commander focused decks in your play group is like Nevermore effects or Gideon's Intervention.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
You
Yeah.
just
said
can't
you
cast them.
your commander.
And Nevermore
play, like-
is a classic commander staple, mostly because, especially the store that we play at, there was for some reason, a large influx of Ruhan of the Fomori, Zur, and what's the Earl the Miststalker decks. And it was like
Ooh.
so hard to deal with them because
Yeah.
Ruhan is just a giant moron. So like you have to deal with him fast. Zur immediately gets protection, right? And and Earl naturally has hexproof, and he gets really big really fast. So like those were three ready. You had to answer these commanders, and the best way to deal with them sometimes was just to Nevermore them, so you didn't have to worry about them anymore. So
Man, back in
Nevermore-
the day.
Nevermore, for those of you unaware, enters battlefield, name an outland card. That named card can't be cast, and it's currently sitting at a grand total of 91 cents on TCG Player.
Yeah,
Like,
those effects
that
are
is
not
super
expensive. Like, if
Yeah.
you really are trying to stay on a budget and like play removal, just play cards like
I mean,
that.
Yeah, removal. I don't know if there's like an exact magic number that makes your deck better or not with more
50.
removal.
50
No.
removal spells.
But even just a couple of removal spells, I'd say somewhere between maybe if you're a really aggressive deck, less maybe 3
Like
to
3 to
7 or
4.
something like that.
Yeah.
Wider. Well, it depends on what colors and what you're trying to
Yeah.
target, right? Like,
It also,
but like,
depends on the type of deck you're playing.
Yeah.
Yep.
If you're
But it
green, you're
also-
kind of stuck.
a little bit more mid-rangey, or if you're combo-y, it's actually really important so you can remove the pieces that stop you from going off, so that you can then any taxing effect you want gone.
Yeah.
And I think what's really important too is if you don't really want to play a lot of removal, at least make your removal modal, right? Like, I've seen some people, and it's all on a budget too. Like, I've seen people play like Naturalize, especially like really low budget, more kitchen table-y people. And Return to Nature is that card, but strictly better because you can also get a card from the graveyard.
You
Right.
Crush Contraband, the one that can hit Artifact, Enchantment, or both.
Right.
That's a pretty good one.
And
Yeah.
you can have versatile, cheap removal that doesn't take very much. What's the Rakdos, whatchamacallit? The Rakdos card
Bedevil?
I'm thinking of.
Bedevil.
Yeah, but Bedevil is really good.
Yeah.
One thing I really like about that card, and I think that's an
Dreadbore.
entire another section of removal too, is just like Planeswalker removal is super relevant. There needs to be
Yeah.
more of it. Obviously, Wizards needs to print more of it. But like Hero's Downfall is worth nothing right now. Like I said, Lightning Bolt also goes towards Planeswalkers, and then like anything that deals with any permanent. So your Oblivion Rings are still going to be able to deal with it. Play more Chain of Vapor type effects. Those are always really powerful. Let's see. Into the Royal deals with Planeswalkers.
Angrass Rampage.
Angrass
yeah.
Rampage,
Rampage.
E2
Well,
Extinction is a really
Vraska's
good one.
Contempt is $2
E2
right now,
Extinction.
guys. Like,
E2 Extinction
Oh,
and Vraska.
man.
Yeah. Yep. Those
The
are
big-
both like really
the big-
solid.
the big modal spells too are really good. Like any of the charms, I love all the charm spells. Abzan Charm,
Yeah.
right? You get to exile a target creature with power 3 or greater, exile, or you can draw 2 cards, or you can put 1/1 counters on creatures. Like, that's really good. Is it Charm? Personal favorite, of course. I love Is It. I love playing Is It, but I love everything that card does because it's always good. Right? Anything that can
Yeah.
draw you cards, act as a removal, act as a counter spell too. I mean, yeah, it's limited to only 2 damage or stop a non-creature spell, but that can make or break like a big. We actually were talking before the show, like if someone taps out to play something like a Sphinx's Rev for like 20 and they leave no mana up, and you go, you have to pay 2 extra, and they can't, then you just really you hit them really hard.
And yeah,
It's a
and
sucker punch.
people in Commander don't really play around those soft counters too. Like, and that's kind of a form of removal, but I think there's an entire episode worth of talking about like
Right.
counter spells. Honestly,
Right.
I think the
But
Which
just,
ones
like,
to play?
there's
Yeah,
a lot of different
that's-
types of removal that, especially like you were saying, the charms. So many of them deal damage or exile creatures, or they do X number of things, and those
Yep.
are all very relevant. So
You want to talk about a backbreaking play? Your commander opponent is empty-handed. He attacks you with a creature, and then you Zaryas Charm it back to the top of their library.
yeah.
Yeah, that Zaryas Charm is a pretty backbreaking Magic card that I
It's a
really would
really
like
good
to
one.
see more at the commander table. Because at worst, it's just a cycle.
Yeah.
Rule Charm is not good. We're talking about
It's
the
a
charms here, and
Bad one.
unfortunately, it happened. Yeah, of the RTR ones, it's definitely the worst one because. So for those of you who don't know, and you probably don't because wow, red green instant, choose one. Creatures without flying can't block. Okay. Gain
Love it.
control of all permanents you own. Okay.
Situational.
Or Cruel Charm deals 3 damage to each creature with flying. It's very, very medium.
If you're in a meta where
So-
someone is stealing your permanents a lot and you can't
Hey.
afford a homeward path, which is understandable, that card desperately needs a reprint.
It does.
Amen.
I agree.
Then yeah, I could totally see playing Rule Charm. Like if you're for some reason playing against a person that's playing you net theft, you just gotta play Rule Charm.
I mean, 2-minute instant speed, destroy target Kalia.
Yeah.
It's an answer.
And all the flyers it played if they're 3 toughness.
Yeah,
It's an
I
answer
mean,
to
it is
something.
an answer.
It
Yeah.
It's just not a very good
It's-
one.
No,
It's
but
very
fine.
niche. it's very. Someone's gonna be like, I play in a flying meta. If you play against everyone who's playing flying commanders, and yeah, sure, play it. I mean, whatever,
If
it works.
your
great,
opponent is literally just playing nothing but flying tokens in like a
Yeah.
token deck, then yeah, play Gruul Charm.
but MVP Gruul Charm
Or,
coming
like,
in.
If
That's
Gruul
very
Charm wins you a
flying, man.
game,
It's really
please
good
tell
against-
us.
If Gruul Charm wins you again, I will buy a foiled Gruul Charm and sign it and send it to you.
Send it to you. You gotta tell us though. You gotta
I
have
need
a picture.
proof. I need a full story. I need a full story, and I need proof. And then I will personally get you a foil one and sign it.
Alright, so we're going to set this up so one of us wins with a Gruul Charm, right?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Seems pretty good against my side deck, but that's because he makes like a million flying
Yeah.
doctors.
it seems
Actually,
really
that's
good inside.
That's a really good commander. Actually, Gruul Charm would be good against if for some reason. But like that's honing it to your specific meta. But
Right.
I'm gonna say in general, Gruul Charm not a good card.
I mean, something
Well,
to
it's a
think
very
of.
meta-specific card.
Something to
Yeah.
think about with removal is
Very.
that like playing you can always pick removal to fit your meta.
Yeah, that's
Like
true.
Gruul Charm might be terrible in our mind because like in the play groups we play with it's pretty bad. But in your meta, maybe your opponent's playing a bunch of like spirits, and you just need to kill them all so you can play
Yeah.
Gruul Charm. I think there's better flying wraths than this, but
Yeah, you play
Gruul
Fire
Charm.
Spat over Gruul Charm 100%.
Mhm.
yeah,
I
so.
agree, but I mean, like I said, if your meta is that specific with flyers, or you have like a ton of side
this is
players
like your
in,
fifth fire spout.
go for it. Go for it.
You have 8 fire spouts. This is the 5th one.
Now, removal comes in a lot of forms. Of course, there's land removal as well, mass land destruction. I don't really want to get super into the topic, but I personally don't play a lot of MLD. I don't mind it if someone either if I'm in a very specific meta or they're like, hey, I want to play my mass land destruction deck. I'm like, cool, and you know,
No.
no, I'm for it. I don't think it's it's too taboo. I do think it needs to come back. But one of the cards I do enjoy playing sometimes is Wildfire, because it's not all lands, it's 4 lands, and it's also a board wipe with creatures.
Right. Yeah, Wildfire's cool.
I like Wildfire, that's fine too. Like I said, I don't want to get super into mass land destruction today. That's another topic for another day. I'm not opposed to it, but I do like a warning sometimes, just because like those games can be incredibly long and frustrating, and I don't like it when people play to making your opponent rage quit. That's not a very fun game for anybody except for the person playing it. So, but yeah, I do like Wildfire. If you have a lot of ramp problems, but you don't want to play like a true mass land destruction card, I fully support something like Wildfire, which can destroy a couple lands, but not anything to like reset the game. And it's also a pretty decent board weight at 4 damage each creature.
That makes them sacrifice, right? Wildfire down to 4.
Sacrifice.
They
not
sacrifice
damage.
4, then deal 4 damage to each creature and each player.
Yeah, like
No.
it's kind of a board wipe, but it also kind of could lead into the point where it's like play Cataclysm effects. If you really have problems with people going wide with certain kinds of permanents, just play Cataclysm or Razia's Purification, and then let them make the choice of what they want to keep.
Yeah, that's true.
just
Or
play
better,
Tragic Arrogance
play
and then
Tragic
you get a
Arrogance,
choice.
and then you get a pick.
That's very true.
I think while we're kind of on the topic, I understand where you're coming from with mass land destruction. I personally have a different feeling about the matter, but we're not going to get into it at the moment.
Great
what I
other
do
topic
think-
for another day.
Yeah. Just for spoilers for that episode, man, am I going to come in hot about the fact that Armageddon should get reprinted.
It hasn't been reprinted
100%.
From the Vault Realms?
I
was
mean,
it
I'm
last
down
time?
for playing against it.
It was in
Automatic
Masters 25.
sets.
Oh yeah, it was in Masters 25. Yeah. So they haven't forgotten about it.
It's cheap. I just mean that it should be played more.
Hear me
That's
out.
what
Instead of
what I mean by
Armageddon,
saying it.
Give us Ravages of War.
Okay.
Oh,
let's-
boy.
We're gonna stop.
Hey,
okay?
we got 3 visits. We got 3
Yeah,
visits.
you're right. What I'm gonna say though is I do believe more people should be playing things like Ghost Quarter. Field of Ruin is
Strip Mine.
Yes.
I don't like Field of Ruin, but Ghost Quarter,
Strip
Tectonic
Mine.
Edge, Encroaching Wastes,
Cleansing
Wasteland,
Wildfire is the
Strip
new one right
Mine,
now.
Sinkhole.
Cleansing Wildfire, just
Yeah.
single targeted land removal is so important.
agree.
How many times have you been sitting down at a commander table and you died to the mono black player who played a Cabal coffers and then you couldn't answer it?
Yeah.
Like,
As someone who has been the mono black player with the Cabal coffers, you should answer.
Any
you should
more these
absolutely kill it.
days.
I know a guy.
They got a guy
who
his cradle. They gotta,
constantly-
yeah.
Yeah,
Seal of Dead.
he constantly talks about how his mono black deck, the commander is Cabal coffers. He plays
Yeah.
every single tutor under the sun so he could go grab it and then he could start playing the game like he should be. Like,
Yep.
that card is
Yep.
nuts. And I think it just needs... There are more people that need to answer problematic lands. Fun fact, Sierra Sanctum's not banned in Commander.
Yeah, it's
neither
definitely
is
the least
Gaia's
played.
Cradle or
It only goes into enchantment decks, though. That's why you don't see it very often.
Talaria West is only... Or,
Tolarian Academy?
is
Yeah,
only-
but
is only in
artifacts-
artifact decks.
Artifacts tend to be more flexible and are often
I-
only in one color.
I understand.
Superior in every
So-
way, shape, and form. That is correct.
Okay, well that's just wrong. But I'm just saying that there are a lot.
I
As
mean-
someone who plays a lot of lands, and I love land style strategies, there are so many problematic lands that need to die. You need to be
Field of the
able to
Dead.
remove them.
Field of the
I mean,
Dead.
Field of the Dead is a
Tolarian
very good one.
Or Academy being blue just makes Sai better than Doretti, right?
Oh my god. Imagine Urza decks
You
with
watch what you
Academy. Could you imagine?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah, they'd have two Urzas in their deck. It'd be
With
kinda crazy.
Workshop and Academy? Oh,
Oh yeah,
my.
why is Workshop legal in Command? Like, I need to ask.
Because
this
it's like,
important question.
like
I
no one
understand-
buys a
I
Workshop.
understand that it's very expensive, but like, why is that card legal? That card is not okay. Like,
It's. I think it's the only like. It's one of the only cards.
Why is it not restricted in Vintage?
Oh, I mean, all right. So if you play with proxies,
Good
or you're blessed to play with someone who owns a Tabernacle, Tabernacle is a painful card to play against.
It's not.
Now,
Yeah.
I understand it's like a $2,000 card or something like that, and not everyone owns one. But if you allow proxies in your play group, or you play against people who actually own it, that's another really good land that like you really need to target if you're playing a creature-based deck, or you will lose. Like it's
I am a strong
backbreaking.
advocate for Ghost Quarter in every commander deck except for the ones that are really color starved.
Unless it's really color
Yep.
hungry.
Yeah.
And then you can play other effects. So, like, if you're really color hungry, you can play spells that target lands,
Mhm.
like Imprison in the Moon, which we just talked about.
Mhm.
It being a modal spell that can hit lands. I'm not sure if there are a lot of other effects like that, but I know that not Magus of the Moon.
Well,
Trapped in the Moon.
Song of the Dryads also
Prison.
does any permanent.
Yes.
Yep.
If you want to splurge for a Song of the Dryads, yes, as well.
Or
you can also-
Vindicate. Vindicate is
Or
$4.
Vindicate's
Vindicate,
really good.
Assassin's Trophy.
Trophy.
If
yep.
you're in red, Cleansing Wildfire draws
Beast
you a
Within
card.
is
Yep,
no,
Beast
that's not
Within
lands. Non-lands.
Beast Within is
Beast
one of my
Within
pet
is
cards.
anything.
Oh, is it?
I run it
Yeah.
in
Target
almost
permanent.
yeah.
It's the exact
It's
same
a
as Generous
Vindicate.
Gift.
It's
Oh, yeah,
it's a
you're right.
really really good card. I love Beast Within. It's a really cheap green card. It's one of the only interactions you're gonna find in a mono green build in terms of like
Yeah.
hit
At instant
anything you
speed.
need. And
I
it's
don't know what you're
it's
talking
so
about. Desert
so
Twister
good.
is a card.
Oh my god. Hornet Sting. Hornet Sting.
Okay,
I said Desert
It's-
Twister. Desert Twister is just Vindicate. It's 6 mana
Yeah.
and sorcery. Well, I guess Vindicate is too, but it's just Vindicate. It literally
It's a 6 mana
destroys just
Vindicate.
any permanent.
you are correct.
You are correct, sir.
You have won this
Oh
I,
duel.
I know I know my
s-
garbage mono green cards.
I
So-
still would suggest a. I suggest Beast Within. It's a great card.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We're talking
it's
about
amazing.
pet
Within
removal
is nice.
cards. I love it. I played
Oh,
in
you know-
Modern actually a good amount
wanna
because
talk
like
about-
that's a one of.
You want to talk about some really fun, like, and this might be a little bit more mean, so maybe my co-host can correct me and whether or not I'm being a jerk when I say this. But like a card that also deals with lands that is removal, Plow Under. Can we just start talking about
yeah. Plow
playing
Under
more
is-
Plow Under effects? Like Sunder, not okay. Plow Under,
Plow
a
Under
blast.
is so like that's something
You may
like
have just boomerang their lands.
No, this puts it on top of their library, right?
Yeah,
Imagine
Plow Under
imagine
is
if you
pretty
will,
gross.
you're at 10 mana and your opponent's still at 3 and they're crying, and then you plow under 2 of their lands back on top of their library.
the thing about Plow Under is it's really good in like top deck wars because you're
Yep.
like I'm gonna plow under 2 of your lands, so you are drawing
So
literal
your
dead
next
the
2
next
turns
turn.
are awful, and it's just the lands you've already been playing.
Plow Under actually makes mono green land destruction almost viable in Modern because you just Plow Under your
Yeah.
I am a
opponent's lands.
huge fan of Plow Under. That card is
Yeah.
amazing.
Eternal Witness,
Also-
get it back, give you 2 more lands on top.
Also,
Oh,
the
they're dead.
the artwork from 8th edition on Plow Under, by the way, just like fantastic.
Yeah, tuck
Yep.
effects are very backbreaking in my opinion. I
That's-
really
Well,
think
the one
they
thing about
Especially in
tuck
response to a
effects
tutor, right?
Yeah.
If someone's cracking
Absolutely.
a fetch land,
Well, like,
and then you bounce something back on their... Oh, mwah.
Unexpectedly absent. Yep.
yeah,
You're just like
unexpectedly
2 white,
absent.
put your card back on top of your library in response to Evolving Wilds.
At
Yeah.
instant speed,
At
by the
instant
way.
speed, it's so stupid. Like,
Put
I
that
couldn't-
So
put that
good.
back where it came from, or so help me.
Or like
Uh,
I think another one that gets really underplayed is like Malicious Affliction.
Oh
yeah.
It's just it's Doomblade for double black, but if something else has died this turn, you get to copy it, so you do it twice.
Twice.
Like, that's
it
so
becomes
powerful.
it becomes a frick. What destroys 2 creatures? I know there's a card that does that. I don't remember. It's a Dead Ringers, except for he doesn't have to do the color thing.
Ashes to Ashes does that, right? Or is that two?
Maybe.
That exiles.
Oh, it
And
exiles. Yeah, you're right.
It exiles and you lose 5 life.
Speaking of Doomblade, you should play it in your commander decks if
Doomblade's
you're on a
also
budget.
just very good.
Go for the throat.
Go for the throat is probably better. I cannot tell you the number of times when playing Yarok, like I've had a Doomblade in hand and died to a black creature that I couldn't kill,
Yeah.
and I'm just like, God, I hate this.
Also, Victim of Night.
Yep,
So long as you're
Victim
not in a
is-
meta that's really heavy on the vampire, zombies, or werewolves, which are popular. Well,
Another
2 of them are pretty popular. I'm not sure how popular werewolves are these days.
Yeah.
Since their
I'm gonna-
commander sucks.
So there's 2
another
Don't worry,
Yeah.
they'll be good in about
2 cards I
12.
want
10
to
years.
bring up
No,
real
we're
quick.
getting a werewolf set at the
Oh
end
yeah,
of
you're
next
right.
year.
You're right.
Oh my god, I can't wait. I love werewolves. And Magic, they're underrepresented tribe. Two cards I would love to discuss real quick because they're also cheap options and they come along with the bounce thing we were talking about. Is Commit Memory, which is
Oh yeah.
Oh,
Just-
yeah.
yes.
a fantastic
Yeah.
card.
Oh.
It is. It's a
Love
bit
that card.
expensive for like some of the CDHs that I really enjoy playing, but for a little bit like lower power, it's just such a good card that cycles itself out. Commit, for those of you unfamiliar with the card, it's 4 mana, 1 blue, 3 colorless, instant. Put target spell or non-land permanent into its owner's library second from the top. So like you can use it as like a counter spell. It gets around uncounterable spells because you're just putting target spell there. And then like Memory is a wheel effect. It's actually a time twister. Each player shuffles his or her hand and library and graveyard into his or her library, and then draws 7 cards. It's just such a good card. It's like $1 or $2. It's a very, very good card that fits everything. You get a counter spell and a removal spell in it. You can bounce someone's permanent back in response, and then you can wheel and just get rid of their hand too once they finally draw. It's super great. I love this card. I love
Yeah.
it so much.
One of my favorite. So I love the like. I've built like a rule of law control deck where like people can only cast 1 spell a turn, and you play a lot of the like remans and commits and all those type of effects because they're really good. Because like your opponent can't respond to them, so you just bounce it back to their hand and they can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
But one thing I really love about Memory is that it's one of the very few time twister effects that you specifically can't accidentally shuffle it into your library if you're paying attention.
Yeah, because you exile it.
Yeah, because it like exiles as part of the casting.
I
Yeah.
feel called out, and I don't like it.
Hey, I did that.
that
I did
was
that.
the point.
There's actually another type of removal I want to talk about that I think is actually really good that just no one plays, and that's extracts or like Sadistic Sacrament type effects.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, okay.
Where you, like especially if you're in like mono blue and you like mono blue can't deal with enchantments very well. Besides just bouncing them, so you just foresight your opponent and you just exile from their deck whatever whatever piece or card you don't want to try and play against, or if they're a combo deck, you just exile one of their combo pieces.
Sadistic Sacrament is such a rude card, especially when you cast it for its full kicker 3.
For
Oh,
the
yeah.
10, and then you
Uh,
strip 15 cards out of your
yeah.
opponent's deck.
This
yeah.
is great if 1, you're playing in a combo heavy meta, or 2, you hate combos and are familiar with a lot of combos.
Yeah, you can just tear them
this
apart.
This kicked as Alex used to play this a lot in a Gontu deck.
In mono
Bounty
black.
Yeah. And he would kick it, and it turns out, even against like a really high-powered combo deck, 15 cards means you don't have a win con anymore. almost. I mean, 15 cards in almost any deck means you can take out most of their big win cons, the big flashy cards. You can take out a lot of combo different pieces, and you don't even have to
the
hit.
best thing.
Oh, sorry. Go on.
Like the best thing to do with like Sadistic Sacrament, if you know a deck very well, is you just Dark Ritual into it on turn 1, and then you search through the problematic player, the person you have the most problem with. You exile. If they're like a 2-card combo deck, you exile 1 piece from each of their combos.
Yep. And it requires you to know some of the combos, but like I know some people really hate combos. I personally love them, but I understand if you don't like them. I do try and play and build decks that don't have combos in them, or really complicated ones that like are like 7 cards, because if I get 7 cards, I think I've got it. But some people don't like combos, and that's perfectly fine. If you don't like combos, but you play against people who do, and like you can't choose to go to a different meta or whatever, this is the card for you. Like effects like
you're not
this.
going to make a lot of friends.
And it's
No,
not
you're
even,
not gonna
it's
make a
even
lot
just
of
that. I
friends.
mean, that's kind of another thing to hammer home too, is the fact that like we've talked about dealing with problematic permanents that are in play. This is exactly another example. If you don't like dying to infinite combos, I can guarantee you can remove a part of that infinite combo with any form of
With
removal.
Sadistic Sacrament.
Like
yeah.
Removal
Sadistic
or
Sacrament, not even
interaction.
just before it's in play.
Interaction.
Just interact with
Jester's Cap is
Yeah.
colorless. It goes in every deck. Well, it can go in
I
every
mean,
deck.
it can go in every time.
4 mana, for those of you who are unfamiliar with, because I have never seen this in Commander, but it's great. I used to play it in Modern Prison. It's 4 mana artifact. It's got tap 2 and a tap to sacrifice Jester's Cap. Search target player's library for up to 3 cards and remove them from the game. If you have ways to like bring back artifacts constantly, like an Academy Ruins is the thing that you used to do in Modern, and you could bring it back, but you can do it for a lot of different artifact buyback type effects. You can like go through someone's deck and exile 3, 6, 9 cards in a turn if you have a really good engine set up. Something like a Mirror Retriever KCI type thing is what comes to my mind immediately. But it's a great card. Effects like this are so good, and especially like we said, if you hate combo.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No fun.
Absolutely. Yeah, and I think that's just like that's a very important piece, and that might actually be kind of like a good point to end it on. Is we're kind of getting to that time of the day where I think it's just important to note that there's going to be things that you need to remove, whether it be a combo piece, whether it be a problematic commander, whether it be a problematic land, or even just random enchantments that your opponents are playing to remove yours. Like you need
or
to be able to
a
kill
troublesome
things.
player.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just play,
yeah, but there's only one
Player
card that
removal.
says destroy target player, and it's not legal.
It's called Aetherflex Reservoir.
It's called
Okay.
Hitseku's second right when your
Yeah,
opponent's
it's
at 10.
just second rate them.
Hitsegu's second right is a removal spell.
It's
when
called-
your opponent's at 10
It's
life.
called
Not-
Soren Markov plus Hitseku's second right. Your opponent just dies.
It's called Triskaidekaphobia.
Yeah.
It's-
Yeah, exactly.
And hey, if
No,
you
but-
if you really think that you can't play removal, that Lightning Bolt's not good enough, and you hate playing against infinite combos, just join
Yeah.
the world of awfulness and make it worse by making your own infinite combo that goes faster, right?
Hey,
Isn't that the way that we're
Yeah.
supposed to do this?
hey guys,
Arms
I know
race.
I know a lot of you, or maybe some of you, maybe not a lot of you, have probably played against a Eureka the Tiger Shadow deck.
Oh my god.
She has 3 toughness. Some food for thought. That card is annoying.
Yeah, it sure is.
Yep.
And I completely agree with
You want to
you.
help? You know what else she loses to though?
Fatal push.
A timely containment priest.
That too.
Yeah.
I know Eureka's a really popular commander, and she dies
is.
to Lightning Bolt.
She is
so.
all over the place on EDH Rec. Yep. Well, I think that is going to kind of wrap everything up for us today. The takeaway here: play Lightning Bolt in your red decks.
Lightning Bolt.
Come
yeah.
on, I don't know what you're doing.
Play some
let's-
removal.
let's go.
There's a lot
Let's
of
go
good
right.
options.
Let's go right down the list. Right in white, best removal spell probably Swords to Plowshares. In blue, Chain of Vapor. That one's pretty solid, I think. In black, you probably got Pongify is pretty good. Reality Shift, yeah.
In black, you have
I like Chain of Vapor a lot.
In black, you have a million options.
You have literally everything under the sun, but the most common one is just we're gonna go with Doomblade. Red is Lightning Bolt, and green is Desert Twister. Like we did it. That's one in every
Beast
color.
Within. It's
green
Beast
is Beast
Within.
Green is Beast Within. Do not listen to this man.
Desert Twister. So that's perfect. That's what.
And
if
you're
multicolored, that's what we're
multicolored,
gonna end it on. Is you should play Desert Twister in your green decks anyway.
Definitely.
That is not what we're ending on. This is not a group consensus.
We have been back to basics. We remain back to basics, I should say. And we would like to remind you to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that fun stuff over here on YouTube. We're going to have a new episode out next Wednesday, so look out for that. I don't know what it's going to be about because, man, we haven't decided that far ahead. But does anyone else have anything to say that is not about, not claiming Desert Twister? Cool, sweet, awesome. See you guys next week.
Have a good
See ya.